I'd always thought the worst thing that could happen in a meeting was being called on when you hadn't done the reading. But that was before the day every screen in our office lit up with my face, frozen mid-blink the way cameras love to catch you, and a video I didn't recognize started to play under a headline that made me want to unzip my skin and run out of it. The headline said, "Confession. How I milked the Q3 bonus," and the thumbnail was me at my kitchen table in pajamas, hair in a messy bun, talking to the camera like an influencer explaining a coupon hack. I felt the first screen ricochet through the room before I realized it belonged to me. By the time I slapped my laptop shut, the conference room TV was already mirrored, and in the glass wall I could see other rooms blooming to life like a rash. My face, my voice, my stupid mug on 12 panes of glass down the hall. I heard two things at once. The tinny audio from somewhere behind me saying, "If you know where to look, the system practically invites you to." And my boss, Denise, in front of me saying, "What is this?" in the kind of flat tone people use when they're lining up a firing squad in their head. I want to tell you I was framed. I was. I want to tell you I did not make that video. I didn't. But I also want to tell you everything I did that made it possible to exist, because that's the part I can't get away from when I wake up at 2 a.m. and stare at the ceiling waiting for mercy that doesn't come. I'm a senior analyst at a consumer finance startup that thinks humor will soften the blow of telling people their budgets are on fire. We do dashboards and savings nudges and cute piggy cons. I started as a contractor and clawed my way up by saying yes to every desperate project nobody else wanted. Somewhere in the climb I started keeping a private Instagram account where I vented and made jokes with two friends from my last job, the kind of dark humor you only share with people who know you're not actually a monster. I posted blurry photos of my cat on spreadsheets and captions like "Girl dosing my way through structural inequality," which sounds funnier when it's just three women laughing in the comments and not a screenshot that later shows up in a jar. My boyfriend, Marcus, is in IT security for a hospital system, which means he lives in permanent quiet fury at how careless the world is with its own secrets. He labels his cables. He uses a hardware key to log into his ARB account even though he's 33. He doesn't believe in later when it comes to updates, or it's probably fine when it comes to captchas. He loves me without trying to fix me, which somehow made it easier to ignore him when he would sweetly suggest that maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't keep my personal email logged in on my work laptop or use a password that looks like a license plate. "I'll do it this weekend," I'd say, and then I'd go out with my friends and come home tipsy and promise myself I'd do it next weekend. The slow part of the burn started 3 months earlier at an off-site we did at a boutique hotel with a lobby full of plants that looked like an apology. There was a karaoke night, because there always is, and there was a new hire in sales named Trevor who dressed like he was auditioning to be the friend in a rom-com. He could make a spread. She sounds scandalous. He was a little too good at getting people to say things they didn't mean, and a little too careless about where he put his hands when he laughed. He wasn't my type. That is not the same as saying I didn't play along. Marcus couldn't come to the offsite. He had an incident response drill. I FaceTimed him from the hotel bar with my drink held up to the camera and told him I wished you were there because then I wouldn't feel like I had to entertain the puppy brigade. He said, "Don't babysit grown men," and I said, "I know." And then Trevor slid into the seat next to me and asked if I wanted to see the rooftop herb garden because his room key opened it somehow. Obviously, I said no. Obviously, I said yes. We went up the service stairs that smelled like every service stair everywhere and stood under a string of lights that made everyone look softer. He leaned in too close, and I leaned back enough to call it a boundary. He asked me what the secret sauce was in ops, how we always hit our metrics when sales was feeding us garbage, and because I am a sucker for the sound of my own competence, I started talking. Not in a way that violated anything, not in a way that would get me in legal trouble, just in a way that sounded like gossip with a cardigan on. I said you can usually get the system to process bonuses a cycle early if you know how to write the ticket, because finance hates backlogs more than they hate anything else. I said we'd saved the quarter twice doing that, once on accident and once because Denise begged me. I said we had a workaround when the forecast tool choked on outliers. He nodded like it was a bedtime story. He had asked me if I was on TikTok. I laughed and said I could barely handle Instagram. He asked what my handle was. I told him my public one because that felt safe. And then, because he said he liked my captions and it's intoxicating when someone sees the thing you think you do best, I told him the private one too. Don't request it, I said, as if rules were stronger when whispered. It's just me complaining. He put a hand on his heart like a pledge. I would never, he said. Back home, Marcus kissed me and pointed to a little USB tooth on the table. Your security key, he said. Use it. I rolled my eyes and said, I will, and put it in my tote. 3 weeks later, Trevor started sending me memes in Slack. Harmless stuff at first, then a boom mic photo with when ops catches sales sandbagging and a wink emoji. He hovered at my desk with shipping labels and questions that didn't need my job title to answer. He made me feel like a person who is needed, which is a thing I am too easy for. I said Marcus would tease the hell out of you, and Trevor said, oh, the boyfriend, like the word had too many letters. One Thursday, I stayed late to fix a batch job that was stopped, and I breathed quiet and forgot to log out of my personal Gmail when I checked for a recipe Marcus had sent me. On Friday morning, my phone pinged with a new login alert that I ignored because it was 8:59 and daily stand-up was at 9. On Friday afternoon, someone requested to follow my private account, whose username was obviously Trevor. I declined and laughed about it with my friend Joss over dumplings. On Friday night, Marcus asked me, again, about the hardware key, and I said, why don't you put it on my keychain, as if the location of it was the problem. Cut to Monday. Denise wanted me to run the weekly in the big glass conference room because she had a dentist thing, and I felt that little fizz I get when I'm in charge in a room where I used to carry water. I plugged in my laptop and the wall screen went black, then mirrored, and then multiplied into a little hall of me. I clicked through a few tabs to prep the dock and felt a weird lag, like the cursor was drawn. Someone down the hall shouted, what is this? And I looked up because if you're the one with the HTML, my everything is your fault. And when the video opened in a new window, I didn't click. That's when my face, my kitchen, my stupid cat tower all appeared, and the voice speaking in a cadence like mine said, okay, girls, story time. How to make the Q3 bonus your plaything, and then launched into a tutorial in my voice about backdating tickets, manipulating forecast weights, and nudging finance with a magic phrase that doesn't exist. The video was slick in a way that made my stomach turn. The lighting was perfect. The audio was clean. The mannerisms were mine. Head tilt, shoulder roll, the way I pinched my lip when I'm thinking. I stood there with my hand on the trackpad and felt my whole life split into before and after. That's not me, I said, which is what people on the news who did it always say. Denise stared at the wall screen with her arms folded like a parent sent to pick up a child from the principal's office. Turn it off, she said, and I jerked my HDMI out of the table like it had bitten me. The screen went blue, then to the company logo, then, horrifyingly, back to my face. It's mirrored to the common display, someone said from the hall. Who has the Apple TV code? No one, I said. And then I lied, not me, because telling the truth would have meant admitting that the code was taped to my monitor for convenience where anyone could see it. Marcus later told me this is the part most people get wrong in their heads. You think the person hacked the whole building like a movie when in reality, they probably just walked by your desk and took a photo. Who has the remote? Denise asked, and a junior from design shook it like a maraca and said, it's possessed. The video rolled on. It showed a screen recording of our internal ticketing system, my cursor clicking through, my voice describing how to edit fields to fake a validation. Except the clicks didn't match the transitions, and the names were a little off if you stirred long enough, and a validation page wasn't the current UI. It was a perfect fake if you wanted to believe it, and an uncanny valley if you didn't. The room didn't want to do the hard work of not believing. No one ever does. I grabbed my laptop and ran to my desk, because that's where people go when the building is on fire. My Slack was a wall of blinking green dots and people deeming, hey, are you okay? As if that helps. Her pinged me. Please come to ConfC now. You pinged me. We're seeing unusual traffic from your machine. Unplug and bring it. My hands were shaking so hard I typed AMO 3 times before it looked like words. On the way to the conference room, I passed 3 TVs with my face plain and 2 with a screensaver of mountains like they were trying to be polite. I passed Trevor at the snack wall. He looked at me with a careful concern that made me want to claw his eyes. Well, he said softly. You good? My throat did a weird dry click. Depends, I said, and kept walking. In ConfC, there were 3 people I recognized and 1 I didn't. Denise, with the tight smile of a person performing propriety. Sandra familiar with a legal pad and the posture of a piano teacher. Mike Ramite with pity and anger fighting for space in his eyes. And a man named Art from outside counsel, according to his little card on the table, who had the air of someone who bills in 6-minute increments. They asked me to put my laptop on the table and step back like it was evidence. Mike took photos of the ports. He had me logged in with my hands held out like a surgeon's. He pulled up the device log, that assistant app, installed Friday night at 11:37 p.m. off grant to a video enhancement service, and an AirPlay session kicked off at 10:01 a.m. with an administrative override I don't have on my account. Someone piggybacked your session and cast it to the whole floor, he said. We shut down the Apple TVs. We're tracing where the video launched from. Denise steepled her fingers. Do you recognize the video? It's not me, I said, a little too loud. It's a deepfake. Screen recording is an old demo we did for Kuwait. The voice is me, but it's not. The words. None of those phrases are mine. I don't talk like a YouTube bro. Art the lawyer asked me if I'd shared internal processes anywhere external. I said no. He asked if anyone had a reason to make a video like this about me specifically. A dozen answers bloomed like bruises. I picked one that felt legal. My new sales rep has been. I looked at Denise. In my orbit, Denise did not blink. A name, Art said. Trevor, I said, and my stomach flipped like I'd thrown a friend to a wolf, except he wasn't a friend and I was the meat. Our moved very quickly in the slow way of bureaucracy. They took my statement. They took my laptop. They took my badge. They asked me to wait in the small room where people wait to change the direction of their lives. I texted Marcus. Help. Emergency. He called me from a stairwell at the hospital where everything echoes. Tell me everything, he said, and I did, and I could feel him building a flowchart in his head. Okay, he said. I'm driving over. Don't touch anything else. Don't cry, Anchar. Don't apologize. Say I didn't authorize this and I want a forensic review. I've already cried, I said, and he sighed lovingly. Okay, he said. You cried at the wrong people. Save the rest for me. By the time he arrived, I had traced the AirPlay session to a conference room on a floor we don't use. The Apple Tuff either had been renamed Boardroom and said to anyone on network and cast. There was a little Raspberry Pi hidden behind it with a Velcro strap, humming like a secret. Someone had planted a device on our network, waited for me to plug in, and then pressed play from somewhere else. Marcus asked to see the logs, and Mike said no, which is fair, and Marcus said he understood, which is true. And then he sat with me in the cafeteria and drew the architecture on a napkin while I tried not to throw up. This is a deep fake, he said, not as comfort but as a diagnosis. It's a good one because they trained it on your face from your public account, and the voice is yours because they have enough audio from stories, and they scraped an old internal demo to make the clicks look plausible. The deployment is sloppy in a way that says new toy. Trevor, I said. Maybe, he said, but also maybe some other bored idiot in sales who wants to watch the world spin. Don't anchor too early. That night, Outer Santa, we are investigating an incident. Please do not speculate email that might as well have been confetti for the rumor mill. Friends from other departments texted, you okay? People I hadn't heard from in 3 years asked if I'd been fired yet. My mother called to ask if I was in trouble with the law, because she reads headlines like Carol. My private Instagram got a follow request from Trevor.sales, which was not subtle, ended T, and from Vanessa Queen that said, iconic. I turned off my phone and sat on the floor, because chairs felt too proud. Marcus made tea and put it within reach and said, we are going to outdo this, which is his version of we are going to win. Over the next week, we built a boring wall of proof. Even pulled access logs that showed my account being accessed from an IP not mine at exactly 11:37 p.m. Friday. They found the OAuth grant to the Assistant app whose domain was registered 2 weeks ago with privacy protection. They meshed the AirPlay override to the little Pi. Security pulled badge logs for the floor with the hijacked Apple TV. A camera caught a person in a hoodie at 9:12 a.m. Monday holding a Staples bag and pretending to fiddle with the thermostat. We couldn't see their face. HR interviewed Trevor, who pretended to cry. They interviewed half of sales, who performed concern. They interviewed me twice. I did not sleep much. I did not eat much. I sat on Marcus's couch and watched him fill a whiteboard with lines and boxes like you could realign a story with ink. He was not my lawyer. He was not my coworker. He was my person, and he was so calm it made me shake. "This is going to end," he said one night at 2 a.m. when I was too awake to fake being fine. "The question is whether you put yourself back in the space they just set on fire." "I don't understand," I said stupidly, like I was new to metaphors. "If they clear you," he said, "do you want to work with people who watched a video and believed it because it was more fun?" I said I needed my job. He nodded. "Need" and "want" are different nouns. I cleared me the following Wednesday at 11:02 a.m. with the subject line, so sterile it could be used in a trial. Investigation outcome. It said no substantiation of wrongdoing by employee, and evidence of third-party manipulation, and thank you for your cooperation. It did not say sorry. It did not say the word deepfake. It did not say they fired anyone. It did say the PR team had prepared a statement should the need arise, which made me want to scream because the need had already arisen in every whisper and and breath held when I walked by. I forwarded the email to Marcus. He replied with a green check emoji, and then, 2 minutes later, "What do you want to do?" I went back to the office the next day feeling like a person stepping onto a stage after someone had used the set for a different play. Denise nodded at me like we'd weathered a storm together. People smiled too broadly, and then looked at their shoes. Trevor gave me a hug I did not consent to and whispered "crazy, huh?" in a way that made my elbow itch with the urge to find his ribs. I said nothing to anybody until lunch when I walked to air and asked if I could see the security report. "You are not authorized," they said, which is all you can ever count on and hard to say. "Did you find who did it?" I asked. "We are handling it," they said, and I realized in that split second that I would never hear the truth from the people paid not to say it. Marcus did not say "told you so." He sent me Zillow links for apartments near his in Google Docs with budgets and if you left tomorrow scenarios. He said, "I will help you right here resume to say what you actually will." He said, "We can move cities." He said, "We can stay." He said, "You can set the world on fire with your talent without letting me show you where the fire exits are." I did not quit. Not that week. I tried to be the person who can outlast optics, who can hold her head up and keep building dashboards and take the higher road while someone in a hoodie with a Raspberry Pi giggles. Then the second video surfaced. It wasn't broadcast this time. It was a link in a group chat that included 2 people and called themselves my friends. It was me again talking about how dumb our customers are, how easy it is to nudge a sheep, how sometimes you have to break things to make metrics. It was uglier. It used words I don't put in my mouth. Someone had found my private account and trained their machine on my messiest face. The edges were worse. The mouth didn't match on the hard consonants. The lighting was wrong. But it didn't matter. The people who wanted to believe did. The ones who didn't want to look worked very hard not to. Denise asked me to work from home for a while to let things cool off, which is a sentence that sounds like care, and is actually exile. I packed my plant. I took the sticky note with the AirPlay code and put it in the trash, and then took it back out because I wanted to remember the exact shade of my own stupidity. That night Marcus said the thing I didn't want him to say, because I already knew it. "You need to leave," he said. "Not tomorrow." Not in a text. But you need to choose yourself before this place chooses what you're going to be for them forever. I cried because it felt like losing. He held me and let me be a child about it for exactly 20 minutes, and then he put a mug of tea in my hand and said, "Make a list." I made 2. Jobs I wanted, cities I could love, things I'm good at that have nothing to do with being the person who fixes other people's chaos at the expense of my own peace. I applied for 3 roles that night with a resume that Marcus insisted we write like a case study instead of a confession. I slept. In the morning, the dare called to say they'd like me to sign a non-disparagement agreement in exchange for a wellness stipend. I laughed in a way that made Sandra say my name like a warning. "I'm not the one disparaging me," they said. And Marcus high-fived me with his eyes because he is a man who appreciates when I use my spine. I didn't sign. 2 weeks later, I had an offer from a mid-stage company 2 cities over where the CTO used the words documentation culture like a hymn. I took it. I gave notice that was so polite it made my teeth hurt. Denise wished me well with a smile that wasn't mean and wasn't kind. It was the expression of a person who has decided not to invest in your particular story any longer. Trevor sent a card with a cat on it that said "hang in there," and signed it with a heart. I threw it away, then took it out of the trash with tongs and put it in a folder with the 2 of our emails and a printout of the AirPlay session because I like my narratives complete. You are waiting to ask me if Trevor did it. I am waiting too. The company never told me a name. I heard through Jazz's sister who dates someone in IT that the hoodie person on the camera matched a body we both know. I heard the pie was bought with a card that later bought 4 White Claws at the bodega across the street, and the receipt was found in a hoodie pocket. I heard security separate an employee. I did not get justice. I got out. It is not the same thing, but it tastes close enough when you're thirsty. You want to know if Marcus stayed. This is the part where the guy wins, and I need you to hear me. He did, but not in the way movies mean it. He didn't get revenge. He didn't unmask a villain in a conference room with a dramatic printout. He didn't fix me. He drew a map out of a burning place and kept walking even when I wanted to sit in the smoke and catalog the different kinds. He moved with me to a city where no one knows my name unless I want them to. He insisted we set up my accounts with the hardware key the day we got the Wi-Fi password. He labeled our cables. He kissed me in a grocery aisle because I said I felt like a ghost, and he said ghosts don't eat grapes out of the bag and be annoying on purpose. He made me a checklist that lives on the inside of my laptop like a prayer. Check sender, check domain, check rules, don't click tired. He told me he would love me if I never learned to be careful, but that he would sleep better if I did, and I decided to be the kind of woman who can give a good man the gift of sleeping through the night. Sometimes I wake up at 2 and hear the video in my head, my voice not my voice, and I feel my chest catch like a scratch CD. I sit up and look at the green dot on the router and listen to Marcus breathe, and I count backwards from 100 by 7s like my therapist taught me. Sometimes I still check the gossip sites to see if the 3rd video ever surfaced, and I want to hate the version of me who is still so interested in the circus. And then I remember the most boring, beautiful thing Marcus ever said to me at 3 in the morning while drawing boxes on a whiteboard. Truth is not loud. It is durable. My truth is that I left a place that would have eaten me alive for sport. My truth is that I ignored a man who tried to hand me a little blue key for a year, and he did not throw it away. He put it on the bowl by the door and waited until I wanted it. My truth is that I was framed, and I also gave the framer 80 pieces of glass to cut me with. My truth is that I am building a life where if a screen lights up with my face, it will be because I opened it on purpose. If you need a lesson, take the small ones because they are the only ones that stick. Turn on 2-factor with a physical key. Log out of things you're not using. Don't bring your private mess into your boss's issue to buy. Don't whisper your secret handles to men who wear cologne in the morning. Do not tape codes to your monitor because one day a person will treat your desk like a museum exhibit. The bigger lesson is ugly, where some people will always believe the most entertaining version of you. Make your real life so grounded that their belief can't move anything that matters. On my last day, I walked past the room where my face had been 12 faces. The TVs were dark. The glass walls reflected a woman with a plant in her arms and a security key on her keychain that clicked against the door as she left. I did not look back. I took the bus because I wanted to feel the weight of all the ordinary choices I still get to make. I texted Marcus a photo of the key and wrote seatbelts on. He sent the little green check, and then, a second later, tacos tonight, and I wrote always, because the best revenge I have ever tasted is eating dinner in a place nobody is trying to film.